We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. This is a story about trust, how easy it is to give, how dangerous it is to misplace, and what happens when the person you trust the most turns out to be a liar. I lived it. I learned from it. And now I'm sharing it. My name is Richard. I'm a businessman. I built my wealth from the ground up and created a life most people only dream of. 10 years after my first wife passed away from cancer, I met Sophia. She was younger, breathtakingly beautiful, and full of life. The kind of woman any man would be proud to have on his arm. After years of being alone, I married her, thinking I had found happiness again. And for a while, everything seemed perfect. Our marriage seemed solid. We had our routines. I traveled for business once a month, leaving her at home for a few days at a time. I never thought twice about it. Why would I? She was my wife. I gave her everything she could ever want. Trust wasn't something I questioned until one day I got a tip that a man visited my house too often when I was away. A retired neighbor, an old man who was always home, stopped me one evening as I was getting into my car. He had that look, the one people get when they know something you don't. Without much hesitation, he told me a young man had been coming to my house often when I was away. Too often. At first, I dismissed it. People love gossip, especially old men with too much time on their hands. It might likely be a delivery guy or a friend, or nobody at all. My wife was loyal, wasn't she? I had no reason to believe otherwise. But doubt is a funny thing. Once it takes root, it doesn't go away. Even after I brushed off the conversation, the thought lingered in the back of my mind. A quiet, nagging voice whispering, what if? I wasn't the type to jump to conclusions, but I also wasn't the type to be played for a fool. I decided to test Sophia, but discreetly. It didn't hurt to reconfirm. I came up with a perfect plan. Under the guise of a routine home maintenance upgrade, I hired a crew to install hidden cameras around the house. It wasn't obvious, and it didn't tip her off. Just a few well-placed devices, enough to see everything I needed, without her ever knowing they were there. And then I waited. A month later, when I left for my usual business trip, I checked the footage from another state, expecting to catch something, or deep down, hoping I wouldn't. I watched hours of recordings. There was nothing unusual. Deliveries, a couple of friends stopping by, normal household activity. But no mystery man. No secret lover. Relief washed over me. I had doubted my wife for no reason. Guilt crept in, making me feel foolish for ever listening to the neighbor. He was wrong. Sophia was faithful. I closed the surveillance feed and put it out of my mind. I had dismissed the old man's warning. I thought that was the end of it. Everything was fine until my next trip, a month later. Life had settled into its usual rhythm. Sophia and I went about our days as always. She kissed me goodbye that morning like a loving wife, and I left for the airport with my bags packed, ready for another business trip. Just another routine departure. Nothing felt off. As far as I knew, my life was in order. My marriage was intact. Then, fate stepped in. The weather took a turn for the worse, and by the time I reached the airport, my flight was delayed. First for an hour, then 2, then indefinitely. The storm outside wasn't letting up, and there was nothing to do but wait. I found myself stuck in the airport lounge, scrolling through my phone, checking emails, and watching the minutes crawl by. Boredom set in quickly. Out of boredom, I pulled up the camera feed on my phone. It wasn't suspicion that made me check. I had already dismissed the idea that Sophia could be unfaithful. No, I just wanted to see what she was up to. She might be watching TV, curled up with one of those romance novels she liked, or she was already in bed, waiting for me to text her when I landed. But I never expected what I saw. Sophia wasn't alone. She was in our bed, wrapped around a younger man, completely lost in each other. They were intimate in my bed, and it broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. I felt a rage settling deep in my chest. I was supposed to leave town tonight. But now, I was going home to confront my wife. I stepped out of the terminal, my grip tight around my bag. There was no hesitation. I hailed a taxi nearby, climbed in, and gave the driver my address. As the car pulled away from the airport, I pulled out my phone, eyes locked onto the live feed. On the screen, I saw them, my wife and her lover. They moved from the bed to the bathroom, their bodies pressed together under the warm spray of the shower. It was a steamy, intimate moment. They were completely at ease, unaware that their little fantasy was about to come crashing down. I watched as they laughed, touched, kissed, completely oblivious. Minutes later, the taxi slowed to a stop in front of my house. I paid the driver, grabbed my bag, and stepped out. My focus was razor-sharp. I moved to the door, pulling out my spare key. The lock turned smoothly, and I slipped inside like a ghost. The house was just as I left it, except for the trail of clothes leading toward the bathroom. His shirt, her dress, his pants, their underwear, carelessly discarded like their shame. I took my time, stepping over them, my movements precise and controlled. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I moved quickly, heading straight to the circuit breaker and flipping the switch. Instantly, the house plunged into darkness. More importantly, the hot water cut out. The reaction was immediate. From behind the bathroom door, I heard the sudden confusion as warm comfort turned ice cold and everywhere dark. Perfect. I didn't knock. I didn't wait. I kicked the door open with enough force to send it slamming against the wall. A violent crack echoed through the room. Inside, they both froze for a second, and the only sound was the water still running. Then, I switched on the flashlight, landing directly on them. Sophia screamed, terrified, like it was a home invasion. Her lover, dripping, scrambled backward, his hands moving wildly to cover himself. But there was nowhere to hide. And then I stepped forward. Slow, deliberate, my phone in hand, camera rolling. I wanted every second of this captured. No words yet. No reaction. Just the quiet horror settling into Sophia's wide, tear-filled eyes as she finally recognized the shadow standing in the doorway. That was when the begging began. My presence alone had already shattered whatever fantasy they were living in. Now, it was time to make them feel the weight of their choices. "Get out," I said, my voice calm but firm. Sophia hesitated, eyes darting between me and the shivering boy toy beside her. She made a move for a towel, probably hoping to salvage whatever dignity she had left. I snatched it away before she could wrap it around herself. "No," I said. "You stand there exactly as you were when I caught you." They had no choice but to obey. Dripping wet, naked, and exposed, they shuffled into the living room, arms wrapped around themselves for cover. The young lover kept glancing around, shifting on his feet like a caged animal looking for an escape. I saw the moment he realized his problem. His clothes were gone. I let that realization sink in. I had hidden them after I cut off the power supply, knowing exactly how this would play out. He was trapped, vulnerable. Then came my final command to the lover. "Get out of my house." The kid looked at me, panic flashing in his eyes. "Please? I can't go out like this." I didn't repeat myself. Instead, I stepped over to a drawer, pulled it open, and took out my pistol. The sound of the slide racking back echoed through the room. I said, "Get out." That was all it took. He bolted. No more hesitation, no more begging. Just the slap of bare feet against the cold floor as he sprinted for the door. How did he make it home? I don't know. I don't care. Sophia is still sobbing, still pleading for me to stop recording, her bare shoulders trembling as she kneels on the cold floor. I look down at her, my voice steady. "So, this is what you do when I'm not around." She sobs harder, shaking her head frantically. "I made a mistake," she says. A mistake. That's what she calls it. What she did wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. A calculated decision made over and over again, every time she let another man touch her in my house, in my bed. I tilt my head, watching her unravel, then deliver the fatal blow. "You do realize you signed a prenup, right?" She freezes. Her sobbing stops as if I just hit pause on her breakdown. Her eyes were wide with disbelief, trying to process what she just heard, trying to find a way out. I don't give her one. I step closer, my voice slow, deliberate. "You forfeit everything in the case of infidelity." She collapses onto the floor, crying. Everything she thought she had locked in was slipping through her fingers like sand. I crouch down, making sure she hears every word of what comes next. You'll sign whatever I put in the divorce papers. I pause, letting it settle before delivering the final warning. If you can test anything this video and all the others, go to everyone you know. Her head snaps up. She knows I mean it. And just like that, the fight in her is gone. No more excuses, no more begging. Just silence. She is utterly broken. I left her and headed to my home office to cool off. The divorce didn't take long. I made sure of that. Sophia didn't contest anything. She knew better. She had already lost the life I gave her, the comfort, the security. Everything she had with me was gone in a matter of months. When the papers were finalized, she packed up and left. Just like that, she was out of my house, out of my life. After that, I threw myself into my business. Work had always been something I could rely on, unlike people. Money doesn't lie. Numbers don't cheat. Business is simple. You put in the effort, you see results. I had no interest in starting over, no desire to heal or open my heart again. I was just done. Looking back, I've learned a few things. Hard lessons. Lessons I never thought I'd have to learn. I used to believe in marriage. I thought love was enough. That was my mistake. I thought if you loved someone, if you gave them everything, they would never betray you. I was wrong. Love isn't enough. It never was. Now, I know better. Marriage? It's just a contract. A piece of paper. And like any contract, it can be broken. It can be thrown away. And when it is, the only thing left is the damage. But love? Love exists. Just don't mistake love for trust. I still believe in love. I know it's real because I loved Olivia, my first wife. But love and trust? Those are two different things. And if you don't understand that, you're setting yourself up for pain. And never let betrayal go unpunished. When someone betrays you, you don't cry about it. You don't beg for answers. You don't give them a second chance. You handle it. You make sure they feel the consequences. And then, you walk away without looking back. Over to you. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you have reacted differently? Would you have confronted them immediately or played it smarter in a different way? Some say betrayal should be met with forgiveness, while others believe in giving cheaters exactly what they deserve. So what's your take? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. And if you know someone who needs to see this, a friend, a brother, or anyone who might be ignoring the warning signs, share this video with them. Betrayal isn't always obvious until it's too late. Maybe this story will open someone's eyes before they end up learning the hard way.